are you?
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, usted.
Vaya.
Get comfortable. You want to take off your jacket?
Saludos. Saludos. All right. Thank you. Toma, José. Porque van en el horror.
Oh my God.
A lot of people want the jacket.
Okay, can we all see this? I don't know.
I'm going to give this to the museo.
To Raices.
Yeah.
Raices. I want everyone to see this.
Let him stand on one side.
Yeah. Manny.
Manny, stand up. Yeah,
Stand on this side and hold this. I want everyone to see this. Manny, stand right there. Next to this. Right here. Here. Did you get a shot of that?
Manny.
Manny. Mira la cámara.
Vaya.
Así.
1, 2, 3.
But Andy should be there too.
Yeah.
Andy should be
Andy,
there.
come here,
Look at
Andy.
this.
All right.
El nene del dedo gordo.
Párate ahí para que te tomen un foto. Párate.
Stand.
Ah, coño.
Get close to that guy.
Para allá, guárdalo.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Put your hand on the shoulder. Put your hand here, go.
Just make them do this.
Que se abrace.
Okay, good.
Okay.
1,
Before and after.
2, 3. Okay.
Los pilares del libre.
Mira, Manny, ahí bien jovencito. Handsome, look at that. Okay.
I brought some pictures, but I don't know if I'm going to show them that. When I used to live here in el barrio. Andy, la maleta para enseñarle el par de retratos.
Bueno.
So I don't know if you want to see them now or later.
No, bring them now because we're going to talk about that. Let me just start. We're here with this is the third installment, the third year of Conversations with the Masters. And we have a legend here, Manny Oquendo. Manny Oquendo was born in a barrio.
No,
No?
in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
South Boston. The reason why, antes los barcos, they used to go to Brooklyn. I forgot the name of the place now, but it was Williamsburg.
Navy Yard.
The Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Even Tito Puente's mother, Cecilia Ortiz Puente, they lived there before living over here in El Barrio and in the Bronx. It was like when the boats would, ¿cómo que se dice eso? Cuando se estacionan.
They moor.
Parking,
On the moor.
they dock.
When they dock.
Yeah, the dock,
On the
yes.
moor. Yeah.
That's how,
So you went from Williamsburg, but then you came to El Barrio, and then
Oh,
you
yeah, we
moved
moved
above the
from the-
Rafael
from the-
Hernández record shop.
¿cómo?
Ustedes vivían lo alto del almacenes Hernández, the record shop.
Que vivía donde?
On top of the record shop. On top of the record shop, Rafael Hernández.
Oh, I'm going to show you, yeah, right. 1600 Madison Avenue.
What street was that?
Here, it was between 107th and 108th.
107th and 108th Street.
Yeah, here is the picture. Here's the buildings that I lived in. 106, the buildings are still there, they renovated them. And this is the Park Palace, which they used to,
Oh, right, now
the
on
weekend.
110th Street. And now it's called La Hermosa.
Here I'm showing that Casa Hernandez used to play the records on the building that I used to live in.
They used to have a loudspeaker.
They had a loudspeaker and the music would be blasting, and that's how you heard a lot of music from
Oh, yeah.
all over, from Cuba.
Yeah, especially on the radio. This is the school that it's something else now. I don't know what it is.
Julia de Burgos.
Yeah, that's what I went to that school
Was
at
it
first.
PS7? PS7?
Yeah.
How did
también en Lexington Avenue. We used to move like every other month because they used to one rent, month free rent, so you took advantage of.
So you had a new home.
Oh yeah, mira aquí el Madison Teatro.
Oh, the Azteca.
Yeah, esto en la 107. We lived in 107th Street too.
And that's Saint Cecilia.
Yeah, all right, right.
Saint Cecilia.
I went to that school in which I didn't like.
Oh. Why? Were they too strict with you?
No, and then they used to like, yeah, strict, yeah.
Yeah. So you're celebrating more than 50 years in the music. More than 50 years as a percussionist. Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
60.
60 years. 60 years.
Yeah, well, yeah, from 45 till now, you know,
Yeah.
más o menos, more or less.
Yeah. But this was the environment that you grew up in, a lot of music.
Oh yeah, I started playing on when I used to go to the school here, on the desk, on the cars. I used to bang the doors to get the right sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like I taught myself. The first drum that I had was one of those Indian drums that I used to take two sticks and play on the. It was only one drum. They're like Indian.
The tabla?
Tom.
Yeah,
The tom-tom. Okay.
no tengo los retratos que, pero I'm gonna find them.
So that chiquito, ever since you were little, you wanted to play drums.
Yeah, I started at the school. Not that I studied at school, but and then we're hearing the music all the time in the house,
Mm-hmm.
more or less, you know.
But was there someone you saw that playing drums, maybe when you were little, and you said, that's what I want to do? Or was it just the music, the sound?
The music.
It was just the sound that got into you?
Yeah, well, un tiempo, you know, like after I had that drum,
Mm-hmm.
like I had an idea exactly with the bongos. I didn't have teaching classes like they do now. They have here and in some other places. You know, I taught myself how to play the bongos. You know, with a trio. In fact, I used to go to a club obrero. Yo tengo unos retratos por aquí. It was over here, 100 and what?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Where the Madison Theater was at, was right next door.
On 109th Street?
It's still there. It's a billiard. What do you call it?
Billiards.
Where you play pool.
Pool.
But and the Madison Theater is still there too.
Uh-huh.
Well, I used to go up there and play the bongos with Ramon Olivera.
Wow.
And after I moved in the Bronx, then I started playing like more or less con un trío que se llamaba Mercado. I used to go to the Tropicana. That's on 163rd and Westchester Avenue.
But Manny, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
You were playing tom-toms like a little toy Indian drum. What was your first drum? How did you start playing that, and how did you get into a band?
Oh, well, that's a good question. For it's hard to put everything into context. You know, more or less. When I lived in the Bronx, that's where I started, because I had the idea of playing over here with on top of the carro and the cars and the doorways and the hall and the school on the desk. But actually, when I first started playing, more or less, was in the Bronx.
How old were you?
Wow, 14, 15. The first band that I played with se llamaba Charlie Valero, pianist. He used to imitate and play the same music as Nora Morales. Nora Morales at that time was
Piano player.
yeah, it was one of the main bands beside Machito. And then over here in El Barrio, they had a whole lot of bands. They used to play at the Park Palace on 110th Street. Jose Boudet, Marcial Rivera, he was the bass player. Alfarona X, Montesino, before anybody, Tito Puente or anybody was playing timbales or fronting a band or playing. He was the first Cuban timbalero. He had a band too, with saxes and trumpets. Marcial Rivera, Jose Boudet was a sax player. He had a band, the same as Machiro's band at the same time. The only thing Machiro's band was more advanced musically, especially when Mario Alzar took over the band. Then they started changing the sound, and with the different arrangements. Joe Loco at that time was a pianista. And then after 47 or 45, right, René Hernandez, they brought him from Cuba. And first they brought Graciela. Machito went to the army and they brought Polito Galinde. You've heard of Polito Galinde? Okay. So he took over his place and they were playing at La Conga. And there was a whole lot of bands at that time. It's not like now, but get back to the question, the first timbales that I ever bought were made out of wood. That's the style at that time. I bought them at Henry Allen's, 45th Street or 46th Street and 7th Avenue. And I played with the timbales that I got like a regular pair, in which the Henry Allen started more or less making timbales out of brass. Ladies was the name of the...
Yeah.
Por lo menos traté de contestarte la pregunta, which is difficult because there's a whole lot of bands and a whole lot of other things that happened as I was trying to play the timbales. The first band actually was Carlos Varela, which I just said, that I played steady with.
And you played timbales with them?
Carlos Varela, piano player. Great.
Who influenced you on the timbales?
¿Cómo?
Who influenced you on timbales?
All
Who
right.
were you listening to?
All right. At first, yo veía a Montesino over here at the plaza because I used to go with my sister and her boyfriend at that time. So then I would sit on the corner from the plaza and watch the bands play. To start with, over here in New York, at that time, estaba Ubaldo Nieto, Machiro timbalero. I have heard of Tito Puente because my mother, Josefina Jesus Oquendo de Jesus, perdón, she knew Tito Puente's mother from Puerto Rico. She was from Cuamo. And they knew each other, and I already had heard Nahue, Sopa Pichón, and Tito Puente, no, not Sopa Pichón, Paella, and Tito Puente had recorded with them at that time. After that, he went to the Navy, and I never bothered, because he wasn't around, to know about Tito Puente, except that I heard the records, and Ubaldo Nieto used to tell me, no, he was here and played, and he joined the Navy. That's where he learned how to play the vibes and the sax and to arrange. Or it was Terry, forgot his name. Terry, the vibe player.
Terry Gibbs.
Terry Gibbs. He showed him how to play the vibes more or less, and that's where he picked up. Now, before I joined Tito Puente's band, I played with Charlie Valero again, and I joined after Charlie Valero, El Boy. He used to sing a Kuturu, Kujak, Jack. He used to have a hit at that time on Vern label, and he had a band that he took over from Marcelino Guerra because he changed the band. He went to La Martinique and he had a different band. At that time, this is about already 47, right? Okay, 47, more or less. I'm not telling you the dates as they are. So then, Chano Pozo, Miguelito Valdez, because there was a theater on 125th Street, the Tribal Theater, and they used to take these shows from Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Olga Guillot, La Mulata del Fuego, Pepe, who used to dance with the knife, and Chano Pozo. He was the main. That was the first time he was here in New York. Miguelito Valdez was the one that brought him here. Con la mulata de fuego y Olga Guillot. This was 47 por ahí. All right? More, and then I kept on playing, and then I started playing with Jose Curbelo. All right? This was a little after, but Tito Puente used to play with Jose Curbelo after he left that he was out of the Navy. The first time I met Tito Puente, I had heard of him, but was in the Manhattan Center. They used to have these matinee dances from 12 to 8 with about 4 or 5 or maybe more bands. Each band would play a set. Machiro, Curbelo, Pupi Campo, Marcelino Guerra. This was at the Manhattan Center on 34th Street. And that's where I met some other people, and Tito Puente happened to be, cuando salió del Navy, en otras palabras, he was at the same Manhattan Center and was playing, and I saw them playing. He played the timbales with Nagüe and a couple of other teams, and Chino Pozo and Chiquitico, the bongo player. It was great. That was history. Mm-hmm. That was the first time that I actually met Tito Puente. Mira, ¿quién es? Oh, que él está tocando. All right? So after Tito Puente at that time lived on 110th Street on the top floor with his wife, Minta Sanchez, okay? And I substituted for him a couple of times, and after he left, because he was playing with Curbelo's band first, all right? Then he left to go and started playing with Pupi Campo's band, in which I replaced him after again, because he used to treat me, like all right, like friends, all right? After Jose Curbelo, I started with Pupi Campo playing at Lido Beach in Long Island. From Long Island, Tito Puente used to have this group that he used to play with Federico Pagani. He told him to make a group, and he called it the Piccadilly Boys. And they used to play from 3 to 7 in the afternoon Sundays. And then after that, he used Luis Miranda, Luis Varona, which used to have a studio, a pianist. He used to give lessons on 116th Street, and he played with Machiro for a while too before Joe El Loco. All right? And as ¿cómo que se dice? I started, he played at the Palladium first, and then he took the job at Lido Beach with the trumpets of Pupi Campo, not the piano player, the bass player, Pacho, yo no me acuerdo el nombre de él, he's the Dominican. And he didn't have Vicentico at that time yet. He had Ángel Rosa, Paquito Sosa, and somebody else. Because Vitín Avilés recorded with him, but he never sang with him. Or the first recording that Tito Puente recorded wasn't actually his recording. It was Alfredito Valdés. Alfredito Valdés era el hermano de Vicentico Valdés, in which he was, he had a name in Cuba. He played with Casino La Playa. He was no relation to Miguelito Valdés. En Cuba tienen 1 millón de Valdés. All right?
When you started playing with Tito, you started playing boxing.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Okay.
Here goes.
Tell me the reason.
He was playing at El Patio in Long Island, and I still don't have a car. And I used to go to Tito Puente's house, and his mom used to do una comida. Wow, she cooked up a storm. So I used to go there, and then Celia, la mamá de Tito Puente, I would eat, and then I was playing with Pupi Campo at a different hotel on the beach. So I would go with Tito and before time and sit in and play the bongos. That's your question.
Yeah. So you were playing bongos during the
Yeah, but Tito tocaba los xilófonos, he would play the xylophone, and I would play the timbales. Because that's my instrument, de verdad. The bongos are like extra. I never consider myself a bongo player. If you hear these other people, Ray Romero, Yayito, Papaquila, Ramon Castro, Mangual, Chino Pozo, those are bongo players. Lo que yo hacía era un aguaje. All right? Pero me quedé tocando bongo, and after he went to the back to the Palladium, that's when I stayed with Puente. After the
what kind of rhythms were you hearing? What kind of rhythms were you playing? You were a young guy, but
yeah,
you were with Noro and all these guys. What kind of things?
Well, basically, el ritmo era de guaracha. You know, that style of music. That's what he was playing at that time. In fact, I remember Tito Puente's first tunes that he used to play, Bim Bamboo, La Múcura de Bobby Capó, La Múcura está en el suelo, no puedo con ella, all right? And Sonaremos el Tambor, in which he took these tunes because he had recorded, and some of them were his arrangements, and he would play them with a small group with 3 trumpets or 4. Cuando Te Vea, which he wrote with Machito, and which Machito never got the credit that he was the one that wrote las letras, not Tito Puente. Tito Puente wrote the music. Cuando Te Vea, Pilareña, and he had recorded with Bobby Acoto on Cinco label, playing at that time more or less Tito Puente's arrangement, and those some of the tunes that he took and he played at the matinees that he started at the Palladium, because at that time he was at the Copacabana playing with, se me olvidó el nombre del brasilero, tocaba steady. In fact, Charlie Palmieri played the piano for that band. I forgot the, Álvarez, un brasilero. And then on Sundays he had nothing. Federico told him, hey, get a group together and play in the afternoon. That's how he started. This was about 1949, but he had recorded before that with Alfredito Valdez, Encanto Cubano, La Rumba en Broadway, no me acuerdo the other 2 tunes, Picadillo and another one.
Back then, Manny, you had to be, as a musician, you had to know a lot of other rhythms like Paso Dobles and...
Oh yeah, at that time, it wasn't just like ahora, you play like one rhythm. Before, tocaba Paso Doble, danza, you know, danzones, you know, it wasn't like now. Now it's just like one rhythm, but I don't call it one rhythm because the label of salsa, that's just a name. But actually there's son montuno, guaracha, mambo, Latin jazz. There's all kind of different rhythms. You know, so at that time it was Paso Doble, danza, guajira. That's what more or less the bands used to play at that time. Now, after Tito Puente, he played in Miami. We stayed in, Vicentico took over, Chino Pozo brought him because he would always have trouble with the singers. He would argue with them, then he would fire them. So, Vicentico started singing, Vicentico Valdez. And from there, we used to go to 3 or 4 months, I can't remember, 2, to Miami every year. Like I was 3.5 years with Tito Puente's band, and we used to go to Miami, come back and bring all kind of music that we used to listen from Cuba. They used to broadcast and hear the music that was playing at that time. And he used to play the same music.
From Tito Puente's band, you also then went to play with Tito Rodriguez band.
Yeah, well, Tito Puente fired Vicentico because, maybe I shouldn't say it, but it's okay. This is a family. Don't tell nobody. He fired Tito Puente, Vicentico Valdez. Tito Puente fired him because he went and recorded Como Fue, Jorobita Joroba, La Engañadora, and Plazo Traicionero. When Tito Puente heard that he used René Hernandez to make the arrangements and he used half of Tito Puente's band to do this recording. Because before all you would record was 4 tunes. When Tito Puente heard that Vicentico recorded, wow, you know, like, and it was a good recording. You can still play it nowadays, and it's just like any other recording of today.
You were on that classic recording of Tito Puente, Estoy Como Nunca.
¿Cómo?
Estoy Como Nunca. Tito Rodriguez, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I get my Tito's crossed.
Yeah, well, here goes the question that you asked me.
Okay, good.
When he fired Vicentico, and then there was all different, Gilbert Lopez used to play before. ¿Tiene contrato? El de Puente. Gilbert Lopez, Frankie Colon, Pacho, the one I mentioned before on the bass, Jimmy Fazora, ya tú lo debes conocer, Frank Lupinto, and Biggie, and Vicentico singing. All right? This is more or less the band at that time. So, but after a while, it wasn't the same band. Estaba Gilberto Monroy, yo sé que tú lo conoces. He took Vicentico's place.
Wow.
Now, the band wasn't the same. Ray Romero, and I know some of you have heard of Earth the Kid. They offered him a job, and he went with Earth the Kid to play because the Palladium didn't pay that much. I think it was 65 or even less for 3 or 4 days at that time. He went with Earth the Kid and Tito Rodriguez. I knew Tito Rodriguez from the Bronx, from when he used to sing with Nora Morales. I met him in a grocery store. Yeah, and then he used to live behind. I got pictures of that. Behind the Tropicana on Rogers' place. Tito Rodriguez. And I knew him better than Tito Puente at that time because I met Tito Rodriguez first. There's a picture here que lo puede ver si quiere. There, Vicentico.
Wow.
Or Frankie. That's where the band that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? More or less. Okay? And Tito Rodriguez, Little Ray was going to take a job with Earth the Kid. So Tito called me up because I had recorded with him a couple of times too. He recorded La Yuca and I played the timbales. The timbalero was late, so he got angry, and then he told me, no, I was in the studio. I used to go all over the dancers, or I can name you all the people that played with Tito Rodriguez. Julio Martinez played the bongos, Chucky, Duchenny. His family is famoso allá en Puerto Rico, de la parte de las danzas y danzones y esas cosas. And Luis Barreto, the bass player. And, bueno, I knew Tito from that time, so he already called me up, and I started with Tito Rodriguez.
What was that like working with him?
It was great because he was always like a good dresser, and he knew what he's singing, and a good sonero. He didn't sing boleros at that time, but he did record boleros, which a lot of people say that he didn't, because he had recorded boleros way before that with Nora Morales, you know, and for Seco Records. So it's not that, and he recorded con Plácido Acevedo y el trio Marcano way before. So people have the wrong idea that he had never sang boleros before. That's not true. When we did our record collections, I corrected Nando because he was trying to tell me that he sang a bolero with Seteto La Playa when Ray Barreto played it. That's not true, you know. He might have sang the Camitillo y Marañón, but that's not the time that he started singing bolero. So I try to correct Nando Alvarici.
That's why we have these sessions, because
Yep.
you're the man that was there. Let me ask you something. On that classic recording, Estoy Como Nunca, was that done live in the studio?
No. Tito Rodriguez had the band with Cachao, René Lopez. He recorded good albums. número uno, number one, with Cachao, una descarga que hizo también with Cachao, and René Hernandez, and he had Mikey Collazo. This was the band before Estoy Como Nunca. When he recorded Estoy Como Nunca, it was a studio band. It was Bobby Rodriguez was the bass player, René Hernandez, and it was a good recording. He already had moved to Puerto Rico, and he was living there. He had his own house, like a museum, in other words, con 20 retratos y maracas, with Toby. Toby was his wife, and she used to like tell him what to do, and you know, so the house looked like an Oriental house of Japanese, you know. She was a great lady. She was always she used to help him out and give him that, you know, no, you could do that, you know, never mind Tito Puente. You know. Tito Puente would like say something and he would laugh back at Tito Puente, se está burlando de mí, you know, so in other words, and then he had a manager, Lenny Green, Tito Rodriguez, and he used to record. I recorded most of the boleros that he did with the violin, and he would use like Dandy, Mikey Collazo. He would record and go back to Puerto Rico. When he recorded Estoy Como Nunca, he put the band together with René Hernandez arrangements, and that's how we recorded Estoy Como Nunca. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
I'm going to repeat it.
No, because I got more questions.
Okay.
I got more questions.
Bring them on.
By the time you were there with Tito Rodriguez, you had already, here's a guy who taught himself from scratch. Had you already developed this, because you have a very distinct style that's laid back, but at the same time, it's like a cantazo limpio, like aggressive and demanding, but yet you're laid back. You're not.
Well, that's what I hear. Like,
had you developed that style yet?
In my brain, I'm crazy about sounds. Que si la conga, que si bongo. And now when I hear people like Aquila, Ramoncito Castro, and other people playing, I checked out the sound, and that's what. And then I've never liked there's good drummers and good timbaleros. I've never been aggressive or played a whole lot of roles and a whole lot of that's what I have in my mind, you know. Not that I've done that, so I play like what I feel. Mm-hmm. In other words, nowadays, bongo, conga, they want to do 1,000 beats, and it doesn't even, you know, you have to play with the arrangements, and the coro, and the vocal, and the piano.
You have to blend with the band.
Yeah, but not now. Ahora tocan lo que quiera. You know.
Well, let me ask you something else. Now that we're talking about your style.
Yeah.
You do something that, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I have a pretty good ear, and nobody else does this. On the bell, when you come for that calling on the bell, you do a thing on the bell that almost sounds like a roll.
It is a roll.
When did you develop that, and how did you develop that? Because that, to me, says Manny Oquendo.
Wow, that's just natural, you know. You do that and then you stop playing, or you do make a roll like when you're gonna finish the tune, or when the piano player is gonna have his solo.
But when did you start doing that? Because nobody else does that. You do that.
Wow, that's difícil para. Okay. I didn't finish telling you because there's other bands that I play with Eddie Palmieri.
Oh, we were coming to that.
Yeah, I recorded some records, and then I used to make the rolls, and then Eddie used to play the piano like a solo, more or less at that time. All right. So I remember Eddie that he didn't know. He used to play the timbales with his uncle, and with a group with the guitars. And I used to see him on Kelly Street because after living here in El Barrio, we moved to the Bronx. And I remember Eddie with his uncle passing by Kelly Street. That's the famous Kelly Street. Tito Rodriguez, Noro Morales, Joe Esteban, Marcelino Guerra, Ray Cohen. Tito Rodriguez used to live on Kelly Street, but further up. It was like we play on the roof, and everybody would go up there and join and jam. In other words, so it wasn't at that time. It was like a good get together, and everybody like knew each other, and everybody was friendly with each other. Not like now. You hardly don't see nobody. Hey, ¿qué pasa? And then you don't see them anymore. Not at that time.
Well, I heard the rumor that it was you that schooled Eddie Palmieri on the Cuban rhythms and kind of changed the sound of perfecto.
More.
So that is
I had the experience from playing with the other bands before I joined Pacheco. I played with Pacheco's band and Palmieri. When I left Pacheco's band, I went with Eddie's band. I played with Charlie Palmieri's band too after I left Eddie Palmieri's group. And when Eddie started, he played with Vicentico Valdez first. And a lot of the recordings that I had, he would hear them after, and some of the recordings that he did in his first recording, Que Humanidad, No Critique, and a couple of other tunes, he got them, because Daniel Santos recorded Que Humanidad también, on Cico. So that's where he heard those records first. And as far as him getting it together, because he played with Tito Rodriguez in Three Loves of I, no, in the Palladium Memories. Mama Abuela, I can't remember he recorded that, it was recorded live at the Palladium. But before that, he played with Vicentico Valdez. And when we used to play cha-cha-cha, he used to play the cha-cha-cha revés, you know, like it was begin. And that's how I didn't teach him. He picked it up himself. You know, man is great. So I tried to tell him, hey, you're playing that wrong. You're come on, down, ban, down, ban, ban, ban. No, it's the other. Tango, 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 tango. Then he would learn things, and then that's how people. And the first recordings when I first started with the group, the Que Humanidad, for Alberto Santiago, Casa Alegre. Those were the recordings that he did at first when he recorded 4 tunes.
How did you get a copy of Pello Africans Mozambique, or how did you hear that and then introduce it into the band?
El de Mozambique?
Yeah.
All right. Mozambique is Afro-Cuban. Carlos.
Pello, Afro-Cuban.
Sí, a eso mismo. I had recordings and I would listen to them.
How did you get the recordings?
Well, in the house, from different people.
Because somebody gave me a rumor that you were in the Caribbean and you had a shortwave radio. And this
yeah, that was at Kelly Street. I used to listen to Cuba.
From the shortwave radio?
Yeah, wow. Hay uno que siempre iba a los bailes y tenía los latest recordings. And then tell me, hey, este es Mozambique. So then in the house, I started practicing like conga, you know, that's what it is actually. And hit the timbal with the left and playing the rhythm with the right. And then I would hear Afro-Cuban, for lack of the right word. I know it's Carlos.
Pello.
No?
Pello.
Okay, vaya. I'm bad. That's one thing I'm bad remembering names.
Como pellejo. Pello.
Okay. That's how I started playing the Mozambique, and then like Eddie didn't know nothing about Mozambique.
So you had the record, or somebody gave you the record. He gave you the
record.
Yeah. And you heard.
I forgot his name right now.
And you heard the shortwave radio, so it was both.
From the radio to the records to playing the timbales, that's I put all that together, and that's how the rhythm Mozambique started.
And then you introduced it to Eddie.
Eddie has a couple of tunes for recording. Mi Mambo con Conga, he named it after when we started playing the Mozambique. Uno que es ligero, se me olvidó el nombre ahora. ¿Cuál es? You played it in the car before.
Tito de Pozo.
De Pozo. I don't know if you know Pozo. He's still around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
116th.
Pozo and el Campesino, ¿no es? Y otro más, que no me acuerdo ahora. He had the rhythm that he had was totally different. It was more like guaracha, and then when I told him that we could add at Mozambique to those kind of tunes, then he said, oh, you know, let's rehearse some things. Then Barry Rogers, Tommy Lopez, we all got together and we recorded that album. I don't know the name of that album. Mozambique album. So he took advantage. In fact, everybody thought that he invented the ritmo de Mozambique, which that wasn't true. You know, he recorded at that time. I heard a whole lot of other bands playing.
But then later you and who was it, Lopez, you guys were doing like your own style of Mozambique.
Yeah.
Which is actually, a lot of people find it even more interesting than Peo. So did you develop that over time on your own, or did you sit down with him and say, look, let's do it this way?
Yeah, well, that's when we rehearsed the Mozambique album. The rhythms were different. More or less like guaracha, that's what it was. And Mi Mambo con Conga was done after, and the Pozo tune was done after. So it wasn't like that he invented it. We rehearsed and we got together. And then he picked up on the Mozambique. That's how that.
And then you just developed your own style after that.
Yeah, well, I heard the Mozambique from the Afro-Cuban, and that's where I picked up the rhythm by myself.
What was it like collaborating with Eddie and Cal Jada? Because you were on that bandleader there.
Yeah.
Cal Jada too.
Yeah.
What was it like collaborating with Cal Jada?
Well, we played at an 802 club in Brooklyn, and Cal Jada was the other band. It was good for Eddie, and was good for Cal Jada, but mostly for Eddie because he got more recognition and more. Because Cal Jada had been around a long time, con Mongo Santa Maria, Chonguito, Peraza, the bongo player, and Willie Bobo played with Cal Jada, and he was on the move. In other words, you know, like he had the right players. That's where it counts too. In order to play or to get some kind of a band or something, you have to have the right players. You know, you just can't have Ciclano, Fulano, and un Chino. You know, you have the right people that you know, that know more or less your style and what's happening and the style that you're playing. They got different bands with different rhythms. Que si un seteto, que si or a charanga. You know, it's all different rhythm. It's not the same.
Well, now that you mentioned Charlie Palmieri,
yeah.
I have this question. I know Charlie was kind of like the musical director and did a lot of the music for the Alegre All-Stars.
Yeah.
But my question is, how did that name, the Alegre All-Stars?
¿Cómo?
Alegre All-Stars.
Yeah.
Who came up with that name? You were around
No. Esto era de...
Al Santiago.
Al Santiago.
Yeah.
He added his name because his record company was
Casa Alegre.
Casa Alegre.
So he just did Alegre All-Stars.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
You were involved in those beginnings.
Yeah, but I never recorded with these people because él grababa at night. You know,
Yeah, I know.
como de 3 a 6 de la mañana. I didn't want to bother with that, you know. So he would call, hey, you know, be at 57th Street Studio in NOLA a las 3 de la mañana. Y yo, coño, a las 3 de la mañana. That's kind of heavy. You know, but he got a lot of people to go. Caco, Marcelino Valdez, Rudy Calzado, Cheo Feliciano, Bobby Rodriguez. He recorded with those people. But I never participated in one of those because I don't know.
Well,
I'm funny. You know.
But you were given special credit on Larry Harlow's LP tribute to Arsenio. How is it that Larry kind of tapped you, gave you the special credit? You had a role in that.
Okay. When I said before that I left Eddie Palmieri's band. I played with Charlie Palmieri and Larry Hollow, okay? When I was working with Larry Hollow, he recorded the album de Alceño, que cantó Ismael Miranda, okay? I recorded that album, del Alceño, eso, okay? Entonces, at that time, I was playing more or less steady. Because Ismael, after that he left, estaba Monguito. Monguito el único también cantó with the Larry Hollow. I think it was before. But after, he was singing after again. With, estaba Javier, el pianista de La Matancera, Javier Vázquez. And Monguito. At that time, I stayed. So that's how I got to record with, because I recorded with Palmieri, Charlie, también, you know, so. But I was in Eddie's band.
Did you ever collaborate with Mark Diamond on the Brujeria LP?
Okay.
Mark Diamond on the
Mark
Brujeria.
Diamond.
No,
No, he played with us.
I played on that.
No, I know, and I was listening to the, and there's no credits on that LP.
No.
So
Mark
I know
Diamond
you
tocó when we first started.
Yeah.
He played
Y
with us.
Oscar Hernández.
Yeah, Mark Diamond played with Libre. For me.
Yeah, when we first started, hubo otro pianista. Mark Diamond, somebody else, Oscar, and somebody else.
Willie Mullins, a guy named Willie
Yeah.
Mullins. Willie Mullins played with us for a little while. They said, what you
Then he
guys?
said,
Willie Mullins.
Very short time he played with us.
Willie
Now,
King?
Willie
Mullins.
Oh, okay, wow. All right.
Now, how did the concept, I mean, you were involved with Grupo Folclórico.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was great.
Tell us a
Eso
little bit
fue
about that.
único.
Because is that where you formed the nucleus for Manny Oquendo and Libre?
No, we already had the idea of, we went to Puerto Rico, right, Andy? With Eddie Palmieri.
Oh, okay.
And I had the idea and the name, Libre, and we started rehearsing more or less in Andy's father's house in the basement. And then the recording came about on South Soul label of the
Grupo Folclórico.
yeah, and all the recordings was just like jamming and great. There was no friction or no nothing, or you know, everybody like just went there to play and that's it, take care of business. And those recordings, from those recordings that the Folclórico, I think we recorded 2 or 3, right?
Two.
Lo dice todo y
Concepts in Unity.
Unity.
¿cómo es?
Concepts in Unity.
Yeah, okay. Cuba Linda con Virgilio cantando.
Yeah.
Great.
Recordings.
Yeah, hey, it was like a great. There was no. Willie García también participó. ¿Cómo se llama él? Que hizo a papá y a la madre que lo parió.
Henny Álvarez.
René Álvarez también.
Henny Álvarez.
Yeah, Henny Álvarez. René Álvarez es otro en Cuba.
Then it started as Conjunto Libre.
No, okay, yeah, it started at that time.
It started as Conjunto.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first album, that was like,
Yeah.
to me, this was such a
Yeah.
great, the name, the concept,
Yeah.
you know, everything was going on at the time, the
Yeah.
civil rights movement, you had the Vietnam War,
Yeah.
you had people protesting, the Young Lords, the Black Panthers, you had the
Yeah.
poets
We
in
used
the
to play
streets,
at
the
the
artists.
Rican Village.
How did the concept come up of Libre? And I know that had a lot to do with you and Andy. Andy, you can jump
No,
in.
no, no. That's the wrong idea.
Okay, well,
We
correct
never
me.
had like a protesta against Puerto Rico.
No, not that.
You know,
No.
we never.
But people in general were protesting in the streets, like the civil rights movement.
The idea
all
was
this other stuff.
the idea was that we would play free.
Right.
That was the idea, de tocar libre la música, en otras palabras. That was when we recorded, in fact, you have to give them credit. Rene Lopez and Andy Kaufman, they recorded for Salsa before we did, and it was their recording. And then we got together with Joe Carey, and because you know, Fania would dominate. Is that the right word? Everything, you know, as far as tenía 20 grupos, que si Willie Colón, que si Hector Lavoe, que si Pacheco, que si all the groups were one label. We did go to Fania with Masucci, right, Andy? And we were gonna sign. Bueno, we went to the office, and then we thought about it. Say, when we with Fania, they're not gonna treat us right. You know, tienen tantos artistas antes que nosotros, they're not gonna say, oh, let's, you know. Pero teníamos la idea from Rene Lopez, and in other words, we went and talked to Joe Carey, the owner of Salsa Records, and we, in other words, went with Salsa. But we did go to Fania, we were going to sign with, pero no. We would just be another pea in the pot.
But what was great about that first album, what I loved about it so much, you had so much different kind of music. You had Chano Pozo tunes.
Yeah.
And then you had tunes by Manuel El Canario Jimenez, Plenas.
Plena, yeah.
Then you had the danceable guarachas,
Yeah.
you had cha-chas. And
Yeah.
it was just really an incredible recording, the drive, everything. And Helman was part of that recording.
Helman Olivera?
Yeah. He did his debut there?
Yeah, but no. He recorded after. Los cantantes primero were Pupi Torres, Tempo Alomar, and at one time Willie García. Con el cantante que cantaba con Roberto Ruena, ¿cómo se llama? Él cantó con nosotros when we first started. What was his name? Carlos Santos. When we first started, pero que no se llevaban, they didn't get together. Carlos Santos, was it Carlos Santos? And Willie Garcia, they didn't get together, so both of them left. So then we picked up on Hector Alomán, and he brought Pupi Torres, because Pupi Torres tocaba timbales at that time. Y Tempo Alomar estaba with Ernie. Agosto. Ernie, ¿cómo?
Ernie Agosto.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. All right, and then, we used to rehearse in La Casa de Andy abajo in the basement, and Tempo and Pupi were los cantantes fijos, steady. The other ones weren't, eso fue como pasar el tiempo.
But you guys broke through, because you're right. During that time, Fania dominated. They brought time on the radio, and their records, they had the best distribution. And in spite of all of that, you guys broke through. I remember when you did your first performance at Madison Square Garden at one of the shows. I remember because
that was a long time ago.
I worked for Billboard and I did the review.
Eso fue cuando Miguelito Valdés se murió, el mismo día.
Yeah, cuando Miguelito Valdés se murió, que estaba Fruco.
Fruco,
remember?
Yeah, you got a good...
It still works.
You beat me now.
But that was your first, performance at Madison Square Garden.
We played another concert que estaba Roberto Torres, Chocolate, ¿qué más, Andy? Cachao.
Well, wait, you're talking about the concert at A.B. Fisher Hall. The one with Cachao.
I saw you there.
For the first time. Grupo Folclórico Libre, Cachao.
Yeah, Charlie Palmieri.
Saoco. Conjunto Saoco.
¿Dónde fue esto?
At Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center. Was that before or after?
That was 77.
Okay, so entonces, you're right in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
That was great. Estaba Andy Montañez también.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. All those.
That was a great time back then. Maybe you can tell the people what it was like working back then, because I know you guys must have done sometimes 2 and 3 gigs at the same
we were
night,
just talking
the
about
after hours. Tell them a little bit about that before we...
We used to play over here un sitio que se llama, que era como like the funeral parlor, I don't know how they used to leave the play at night. Tocamos y parece que el muerto se fue de rumba porque tocamos arriba. No, de verdad. You should have seen us when we used to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, tempo with a pink uniform or a suit a las 7 cuando está saliendo el sol por la mañana. Y todo el mundo, we used to leave the after hour place. Wow, you know, 116, ¿verdad?
Yeah, there was 102nd Street.
El sitio era de Postal after hours.
Oh, the famous one.
Yeah. Well, we played, we played Puerto Rico, España, Italy, London, Amsterdam. There's puertorriqueños en Amsterdam. Estamos como las cucarachas donde quiera. You know? Paris. Where else we been?
You guys have been all over the world.
Yeah. There's only one place that we haven't been yet. Okay? That's Japan.
Oh, you gotta get there next.
Yeah. A lot of people.
You want to, because our time is getting limited, but I would like you to let people know, I mean, you've had such a history in the music, and with Libre, since that time, what was it, 74?
Yeah, it's about 30 or 32 years now.
I mean, having a band, and what I tell a lot of young people is that having a band is like having your own business.
That's a good question. A lot of people, perdón, a lot of people that play with us have made it either with other bands, Papo Vázquez, Germán Olivera, Jerry Gonzalez, Dave Valentin, hey, help me out,
Jimmy Bosch.
Jimmy también, yeah. And when we first started, we were lucky because we were playing esto y lo otro, but we got Barry Rogers, Jose Rodriguez, Néstor, ¿cómo?
Néstor Torres.
Néstor, yeah, Torres. So we were lucky at that time to use these people. Más o menos, they would stay for a while, but all these other people that I just named, most of them have their own bands now. And they played with Libre before, so that's something to look.
Before we end this, I want to know if anyone has any questions for Manny now that he's here.
Wow,
now is the time to ask it. Because we have Orlando Marin coming up. But there's a percussionist up there. He looks familiar to me. His name is Benny Bonilla. There's a young percussionist rookie up there.
Okay.
I'm just going to take a little statement before my question.
Go ahead.
On my Stickball Street, he lived in the next block, on Kelly. I played stickball on one block, and he lived in the next block. He's a little bit older than me, not too much. But we would see him as a young, handsome, tuxedo musician going to work to the gig while we playing. I go, oh, shit, there goes Manny Oquendo, man. Oh, my God, man. You were the star before you knew it. Anyway, my question is, who was your inspiration while you were learning? Artist or band or bongo player at that time? 1949, 1950.
Well, that's a good question. I said this before. Jose Manuel Chino Pozo.
Chino. Okay.
He's no relation to Chano Pozo.
Yeah. I know.
Ramoncito Castro, que tocaba con la playa.
I just want to know who was your
Orquesta La Playa.
Yeah. What was the first band that you got into as a professional?
Charlie Valero.
Okay.
Yeah. Before playing with El Boy y Jose Curvelo y Pupi Campo, that's why when she said before, I had already experienced all kinds of other music before I started playing with Palmieri y Pacheco after. But ya yo tenía ya a whole lot of years playing with different bands.
Aurora.
And you pick up all that experience.
When Manny was talking about playing with El Boy, and talking about...
I played with Marcelino Guerra's band too.
He was one of the first timbaleros to accompany Chano Pozo. And when he was playing with El Boy, they were the band that accompanied the show with Miguelito Valdez at the Tribal Theater.
Oh yeah, cuando Chano vino aquí for the first time, we played at the 125th Street, the Teatro Trioro, and Chano Pozo was like he was a part of the group, La Mulata del Fuego, Olga Guillot, there was a group that Miguelito Valdez put together, and they played at the, for a week or more, at the Teatro Triboro on 125th Street. So when we used to have the break, Chano, he wanted to learn how to play, so he wanted to stay, because at that time you had to have a 802 card. If not, you couldn't play at the downtown or La Conga or La Habana Madrid. Or,
that was a card from the local union.
Yeah, and you even have to have a police card, you know, so you could show that everything was
Cabaret card, yeah.
This is many years ago.
Yeah.
Pero Chano wanted to stay here. Okay.
Oh, wait, I do. Something else is interesting.
Okay.
Manny took the test for Chano Pozo to get his union card.
The test for Chano Pozo?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
We rigged it up and thought about it, because we used to go downstairs to the basement and practice, because he wanted to, en otra palabra, pasar el test, test that he would give you, do a role, play a paradiddle, whatever, and then you have to play. So entonces we hooked it up, and I said, look, I'll go and, they don't know who Chano Pozo is. I'll go and take the test, and then you get in the union. That's how I went and took the test, and then le dieron la tarjeta de la unión.
Oh, boy. Let's give it up for Manny Oquendo.
All right.
Andy Gonzalez. And Manny Oquendo Libre.
I know there could be a whole lot of, and thank Aurora, because I know her from a long time.